What up, sports fans? This is Jake Waxman
And Tyler Lavalette.
coming to you from the studio here in Waterford for another Friday Roundtable. And today we're joined by a special guest today. Please welcome Gary Wall to the studio. He's here to talk some sports with us. Before we get into that, Gary, would you like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
I will. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Pleasure to have you on board.
Likewise.
Closing in on the opening day of baseball seasons, it's exciting to be on a show talking about baseball and things. But as for myself, I'm a lifelong resident of Waterford, graduated in Waterford County High School in 1972. I was in the construction business for 40 and a half years as a rough carpenter general contractor. And I built or remodeled over 1,200 homes or businesses in Waterford. And then I decided to run for township supervisor. In 2012, the residents of Waterford elected me as township supervisor. I did 3 terms, retired in November of 2024. And that's probably been the toughest adjustment in my life, is adjusting for retirement. When you work all your life. But, opening day of baseball season's right around the corner, and opening day of garden season's right around the corner. So the good time of year is coming up. So looking forward to it, and I'm excited about it. But baseball, can't get here quick enough, can it?
Absolutely
No, it cannot.
not.
Yep.
And I guess before we get into it, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
So, what would you say? So, you mentioned you've been through, you were you were in the contracting industry, and
Yes.
you even held a very high position. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in your work years, and what were some of the biggest rewards of those years that you worked?
Well, some of the biggest challenges back in the day was finding help and then being able to train people to do the job and do it up to the expectations that I required. You know what I'm saying? We did high quality work. We did, and people did not hire me because I was cheap. People hired me because of the quality of work that I did. And I'm not patting myself in the back. I'm repeating what people said about me over the years. But again, like I said, so that was the biggest problem. But the reward was the finished product. And to this day, I drive down the road, and I remember when my grandsons were driving around, I said, yeah, I built that house, I built that house, I built that house. Shark Club there, we did a significant remodel on that, and it was Mitch's too, just telling different stories and stuff. But it's, you just realize the thing, and holy cow, it's just, but this is, like I said, my family celebrated 100 years this year in Waterford Township. We came here in 1925.
Congratulations,
And again, it's like I said, my family's been here all along, and this is where I, dedicated my lifehood. I worked outside of Waterford too, but, just most of my work was in Waterford.
I've seen a lot of the stuff here in nearby White Lake along 59 corridor with a lot of construction over my time down in the area since 1999. I've been in Waterford since 2015, and I've seen a lot of progress and change over the years.
Yes.
Mainly for good, but of course you got stuff that leaves and places go out of business, but you also see more people coming into places. It's a never-ending cycle.
It is. It's going on. And I can remember I was glad I had the dad that raised me, because when his family moved here, he was 4 years old. And we'd go drive down the road, and they said, that subdivision area, so I used to rabbit hunt there in the winter, and that subdivision over there, I used to pheasant hunt there in the fall, and all the different lakes he fished in and stuff. But just the stories were just great, and thinking, wow, that's all houses now, and that used to be an orchard, or that used to be, a cornfield or something. But it was interesting to hear the stories and know what was there back in the day.
Absolutely. I just wanted to, just on a side note, you mentioned that you had actually redesigned the Shark Club. I have actually been there before.
Yeah.
Me and some of my hockey teammates, we would go after alumni games, and I just got to say, the architecture there is very, very impressive. It's very comfortable there.
Yep.
In addition to good food as well, just the whole design of the place, I was always really impressed with. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say this to you. Well done, man. Great job.
Yeah, they said I didn't do the design. I did the actual. I was the foreman for the carpenter crew on the builder. But back then it was Mitch's too. And then after the Mitchell family sold it, the Shark Club, it was remodeled. It's different than what it was, but it's still a great place. It really is. And the physical structure of the building is still the same. So the outside, yep.
Nice to know some things never change.
Yep.
I guess
All right.
all right. I guess one more question I'll ask you. Tyler, do you have a question for him at first? Or?
What was it like being the township supervisor for as long as you did?
Well, I said it was an interesting job. I'd say there's a big difference from the private sector to government, but it was very rewarding. It was wonderful. Waterford has wonderful employees. In fact, I named our Team Waterford, all the employees in Waterford Township, and everybody works together so well for the right reason, for the betterment of the community. And when you're working with people that are like that, it makes the job a lot easier. I work with people. I don't micromanage people. I just work with people to get things done, get them done in a timely manner, because things pile up, and you have to keep going and keep going. But it just, like I said, it was very rewarding. I enjoyed it. But, I said, I'm 70 years old. It's time to retire because I got a bucket list I want to exhaust, and I don't want to do it and try and not be at work doing my job. So it was time to retire. Yep.
Yep. And I have to say that must be nice that now they don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yep, it is. I'm still on the township board as a trustee, but like I said, I went from 60 hours a week to 2 nights a month.
Very
Not
nice.
even,
Good stuff.
not even double digits on a week at all at this point.
Yes, yep.
All right, I guess one final question then before we get into the sports.
Okay.
What is an experience in your life? It could even be whether it's on the work side of things or even just something you did outside of work. What is something that has, like, an experience that has shaped your life for all positive reasons?
I can't think of any one thing in particular. I would say probably falling in love and getting married and having children and now having grandchildren. And then I referenced to my adopted granddaughters, and now they have babies, so I have great-grandchildren, not biological, but they are my great-grandchildren. So the family stuff, and like I said, I idolized my dad. He was a wonderful person. But like I said, there was nothing that he didn't know about life in general, but Waterford Township, like I said, he knew every part of it, and he would straighten you out, because if you were in the segment of Waterford that's Drayton Plains, he would say, no, that's Drayton Plains. He just, because that's where they lived, in Drayton Plains, and there was a big rivalry apparently from Drayton Plains School and Waterford Village School, K through 8. Those playing sports against each other and stuff. And that's hockey, baseball, football. There was a big rivalry, so you had to. We're Drayton Plains. They were Waterford. So, but it was very fun.
At least you got Kettering Mott in high school area, so that's still going on.
Oh yeah, you're together, but not on the sports field.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Although, speaking of Waterford, the Wings, their captain is a Waterford guy, and Doran Larkin.
Yes.
Met him one time, and met him several times. I at least met him at a Wings game a few years back, and called me a proud resident of Waterford, for what I do. And City of Waterford themselves even did that, sharing an Instagram story the Wings did with my jersey getting signed.
Yes, that's neat to have that. And I can confess, and this is the truth, but Kirk Gibson grew up 2 blocks from me in the plumbing sub, which is a subdivision right across the street from
Yes,
Waterford Township Hall.
Yep, I know exactly
That's
about
awesome.
that one.
You lived there, you call it the plumbing sub or the bathtub sub, and if you didn't, they call it the toilet bowl sub or toilet town, because the streets are named after plumbing fixtures. Yeah, Kirk lived on Kohler, I lived on Crane, and his dad was our 5th and 6th grade school softball coach, and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade baseball coach, summer baseball coach.
Well, speaking of Gibson, he's no longer going to be part of the Tigers broadcasting team, largely thanks to his Parkinson's disease getting progressively worse, causing his announcing to get bad in turn.
Yeah, but he had a good run.
Shame.
Yep, he had a good run. It was good to have, but one not only just a local guy, and then a Tiger. Mm-hmm. And it was good to hear he had a knowledge of the game that a lot of announcers don't have. So it was great to have him on board all those years.
Yeah, some of them, fans I liked him, some that didn't. But regardless, it's a shame that the Parkinson's is one reason why he's done for. It's a shame.
Yep, for sure.
All right. I just want to say this. First of all, it's an honor to meet a legend of the town of Waterford, and
Boy, thank you.
thank you for everything you've done for your community, and
Thank you. I
thank you for
appreciate
coming
that.
on the show too, and thank you for answering these questions. to
Yeah,
start
you
the-
said sports, and I was all on board. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, like you had me a little there.
All right. Without further ado, guys, you guys ready to get into some sports?
Yes,
Let's
we
go.
I am.
All right, we are going to start with spring training. And if we could, please roll the first clip. So, spring training going underway. Tigers, of course, looking to build off of what they did. And, of course, the Cubs, they took a trip out to Japan and played some baseball out in Tokyo. This is a clip from the game between the Dodgers and the Cubs out in Tokyo. Unfortunately, Cubs got swept by the Los Angeles Dodgers in both of these games. But plenty of takeaways I can talk about from both of these two games. But before I get into that, I'm going to let you guys go first. You guys want to talk about the Tigers? Take it away.
Sure, go ahead. You got the Tiger uniform on. You
Oh,
kick it
well,
off.
thanks. Absolutely. I'm just really looking forward to see how this team does after that surprise playoff appearance last year. And to think that we were one win against Cleveland away from the LCS against the Yankees. That could have been an interesting series. Now, could we have made the World Series that last year? Who knows? I mean, we've been good against the New York Yankees in playoff contention, so who knows? But regardless, that's neither here nor there. Could we be contenders for the Central? We'll see. Can Torkelson still be good like his run last year? There's a lot so many unanswered questions that need to be answered, and I'm really also looking forward to seeing how Gleyber Torres does with the team now. And Javi, I don't know how long he has left in the tank. We'll just have to see.
Yep, and again, like I said, Torres I think is a great addition for Detroit to have him. But like I said, that's why they play the game, because there's no guarantee how it's going to turn out. But I
Absolutely.
think with the talent the Tigers have and the experience that they had last year getting to where they're at, and it wasn't far enough, I think that will be a motivation that drives them to do better than that.
Absolutely.
Again, unlike the Lions, all the critical injuries they had this year, Detroit can stay healthy. That's very, very important, especially with your pitching.
Of course. It's a bummer for the Yankees because they don't have Garrett Cole back now because he's out for the season. But yeah, that's the thing. You're still going to have these injury concerns, even if you're playing 162 games with so few rest days in a given week. You might be lucky to have one day off, or even a stretch with no days off.
Yep, yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, and that was a few decades ago, literally when the baseball players came to spring training, it was to get into shape for their regular season. People didn't train in the off season back in those days and stuff, A lot of them had batting cages at their home and stuff now, but they didn't train, but they came to spring training to get into shape, and then, it was just wonderful going down to Tiger Stadium for opening day. Went down there more than once, but it was just, it was so exciting.
Yeah, but I went to a game at Comerica in 22 with my stepdad. It's fun times.
Yep,
Home road is something else here in Detroit. It's special.
yep.
Yeah, I've been to Comerica Park a couple of times with my friend Tyler Lovell, and the vibes there are always good.
Yep.
There's always no matter how the Tigers are doing, there's always a good feel there
There is,
at
yes.
Comerica Park. And compared to a place like the new or Rate Field or what was Kamensky Park,
Yeah.
the atmosphere is so dead there compared to both Wrigley and Comerica, it's always so lively there, which I really like.
Yeah, he and I went to both stadiums back in last August when the Tigers did a 10-game Chicago trip. Team ended up having a collective 5-2 record with losing 2 against the Cubs and then sweeping the 4 against the Sox.
That's great. That was a fun trip, wasn't it? Yep.
We were more excited about going to Wrigley than Comiskey.
Was Wrigley as exciting as it looks on TV in person, was it?
It was a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Had its charm, had its character. Really want to sit behind a pole.
In spite of having kind of an obstacle right in front of us, like a little column, I will say this: the experience at Wrigley Field, in terms of like baseball, to me is second to none.
Yeah,
Everything that they say about Wrigley, like the history and all that, absolutely lived up to everything that I was hoping to see. This was the first time I'd ever been to Wrigley too. It was gorgeous. The weather was gorgeous. Seeing all the even kind of the concourses underneath the stadium, seeing the historic bricks and all that stuff, the ivy, the historic scoreboard, like seeing all this, including the historic marquee for the first time, it was stunning. Like you see it finally for the first time in real life. You start to kind of like, has someone pinched me yet? It was a beautiful experience.
And also we got beer drinks afterwards at Vines nearby, and you couldn't do that at Comiskey. That place is just surrounded by parking lots.
Okay. It's more of a modern day field. Yeah, there you go. Modern day
True.
location, yeah.
All fine, Dan. I mean, Comerica is that way as well. And it has some lots, yes, but it's not as big a sea of lot as Comiskey has.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's Fenway Park and Wrigley Field are both on my bucket list as old-time American League ball stadiums, and I'm going to go to both of them probably this year yet. So I have to. You know.
How about that?
Yeah, I've been to Fenway.
You will not be disappointed with
Wrigley,
Wrigley's.
yeah.
And Wrigleyville itself, let me tell you, the vibe there it's always hopping, no matter how the Cubs are doing.
Okay.
The town is
it's great.
always, they're ready for base. Like, I'm not sure. Sometimes we know Wrigleyville's part of Chicago, but it feels like its own like little community.
Really?
Outside of
Okay.
Chicago. That's just how it feels. Like that place was hopping when I was there.
It was great.
It's probably all the time then. Yep.
Yep.
Well, good.
Yeah, yep.
And I was just going to mention. So me and Tyler, we've talked about kind of the Tigers and the Cubs and our experiences there in Chicago. I like to think that he and I got a really good trade-off. I got to watch my Cubs beat his Tigers, and I got to sing to "Go Cubs Go." And in exchange, his team got the postseason. So I like to think for Tyler, that was kind of a good trade-off.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
is.
I've always wanted to go to Chicago and to the Cubs Stadium, and it just worked out.
Yeah. That's great.
Absolutely. In terms of the Tigers, I'll add a few thoughts. They, like you guys said, they made the postseason last year. They got in. They actually won a series and almost beat Cleveland. So they got a lot this season to build off of. And
Yes.
there's a lot of promise with that Tigers team.
There is, yep.
So pretty much if you're the Tigers, you're building off those steps that you took last year with the pieces that you have. And I will ask you this, Gary. Do you think there's anyone like that the Tigers have added that you're keeping an eye on or who you think could have a major impact on this season?
Well, like I said, I was glad to see Gleyber Torres come to Detroit. I think he'll be. It's got to be a different environment. Not saying New York Yankees are bad, but I got to believe playing for the Yankees and playing for the Tigers is different. It just is. And I truly think he'll be a valuable asset to our team. And again, like I said, we just have to continue on doing what we were doing in the past to make it happen. So, hopefully that happens and the Tigers have a great season. I'm really looking forward to seeing them play this year.
That we hope. It's going to be fun no matter what. I mean, yeah. And now the thing is, will they contend for the Central? It's just hard to tell. I don't know if they have. I mean, Cleveland, Minnesota are still going to be good. Are going to be good teams to watch out for in our division.
Yep.
And Kansas City's no slouch. White Sox. Oh boy.
So glad I'm not a Sox fan.
Yeah.
But again, they are all professional athletes, and they are literally the best of the best. So again, like I said, I remember you see some teams. I mean, years ago, you see teams they'd be under 500 one year, and the next year go to the World Series and think, how did that happen? Were they really that bad the year before? No, they weren't. They just played that way. Then the next year, come out and played the way they were supposed to, and they make it to the World Series, thinking, okay, I didn't see that coming. But again, it's just you just never know what the outcome's going to be.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's why we play these 9-inning games of 162 times a season.
Yep, that's right. Because if it was guaranteed, they'd just say, why go through all that? Let's just go to the World Series right now.
Right. Get us to October. Is it October yet?
Yeah.
No, I like how it is in the summer months.
Yep,
I like it.
yep. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So plenty for the Tigers to do. And in terms of the Cubs, who I root for,
Yep.
of course, my grandfather was a big reason why I was a Cubs fan. He got to see them win the World Series in 2016, and he passed away in 2022. So.
Wow, that's great.
I was thinking about him a lot when I went to Wrigley Field with Tyler Lovelett and his family. So, Speaking of the Cubs, so I watched a little. So before I came on the air today, or just the night before, I was watching some highlights of what they were of the event in Tokyo, or the games in Tokyo. Sorry for sputtering.
Okay.
So here's some of my takeaways from what I saw in Tokyo. Okay, they've got. So there's some questions about Cubs pitching this year. There's no doubt about that. But I will say, Shota Imanaga.
Yep.
He's got a lot of promise, and he actually pitched really well in the game that he started for the Cubs. So I liked what I saw from him. He had he allowed a couple of walks, but didn't also allow a lot of hits. The Cubs need that kind of pitching if they're going to have any chance, and I do mean any chance, to get to the fall postseason in the fall.
Yep.
So, and Shota is a good example of, okay, the Cubs might have something here. He's got a lot of promise, but besides that, the one thing I do wonder, how much depth do the Cubs have behind Shota? And other things I noticed, just real quick, John Birdie showed a lot of promise in those games. He had a couple hits. The first game, the bats were quiet for the Cubs, and the second game, much more promise on offense for the Cubs. That's been a problem with the Chicago Cubs, inconsistent batting and offense. And when you have that kind of problem, you're not going to make the postseason because if you have too many games where your bats are just too quiet, as they say, you're not going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, so big time.
John Birdie is a guy, watching him, I think he's a guy that could help get some energy on the offense for the Cubs when they need it most. And there's also guys like Ian Happ. Ian Happ's returning. He's probably one of our better players. Still has some of that firepower. And I'm really curious to see what Matt Shaw does for the Cubs this season. He's kind of relatively new coming onto the scene, and I think he showed some big poise in those games against the Dodgers out in Tokyo. So I'm curious. So those are some of the guys that I'm going to be watching for the Cubs. Both in pitching and both on offense when you're up to bat. And I just gotta say this: baseball in Japan, it's wonderful.
Is it?
I'm really glad they did this.
They're I've seen on videos and stuff. They have their own league that they were influenced by the MLB visits in the 30s. The Nippon Professional Baseball is no slouch. That league has produced a fair amount of talent, of Japanese talent that we have nowadays. Guys like, even now Ichiro going to the Hall of Fame. You got the guys like Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinori Yamamoto, and Roki Sasaki for the Dodgers, and Seiya Suzuki and Imanaga, as Jake said, for the Cubs. That country produced 5 players that played in those 2 games in Tokyo alone.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just crazy to see a country that has taken our national pastime and made it its own thing, its own special way.
Absolutely agree with what Tyler said. And like I said, really nice to bring some of these Japanese baseball players back to their home soil and let them showcase what they can do at the top level, at baseball's top level. Absolutely a wonderful thing to see. Really,
because Major League Baseball, that's the premier baseball in all the world. There's no better baseball players in the world than play in the major leagues.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to look to play for that.
Yes.
Anybody who's a baseball player out there, that's the dream they're always shooting for.
It is.
It's one thing to play in Asia. It's one thing to play for a league in Taiwan. It's one thing to play in South Korea. It's one thing to play in Japan in your top league and be good. But when you get the opportunity to play in the majors, oh man, there's nothing else like it. Except maybe the World Baseball Classic, but aside from that, nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Nothing quite like it. I guess one final thought on the Cubs before I let you guys talk a little bit more about whatever you wanted to in terms of spring training is the defense. In addition to the offense, kind of having trouble up to bat. defense could still be a little night and day for the Cubs. I think they've improved a little bit, but there's still some times where they allow some big hits and even some drives down the middle. I think there's still some work to be done there. They're improved, but still some progress to be made there.
Yeah, and that's one thing you do as the season goes on and you don't make the playoffs. You look back and you reevaluate the games you could have won or should have won, and there was a lack of hitting or poor defense or whatever it was. You think, geez, it's got to get better. Because the people you're playing against are doing it better. You have to do it as good as them and see who wins the game because the way it was played,
Absolutely.
the right way.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
Culture. Got to build it up. Play hard. Do all the little things right as across any other sport.
Yep. And every once in a while you get that one guy that hits a home run in the bottom of the ninth and you win it.
Boom.
Or the reliever that comes in and strikes out the side, but the base is loaded and you win it, So I mean, but again, that's all situational. But when it's time to execute, the ones that do are the ones that win. So,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Who's going to have the loudest bats at the right time? Who's going to make those moves at the right time?
Yep.
And in terms of predictions, I could see the Tigers taking steps forward this year. Not just making the playoffs. They could win a few more series, even maybe get to the ALCS or the championship series. I think they've got a lot of promise there. A lot of young teams that. Sorry if that didn't make sense. There's some young teams in there, but the Tigers are kind of young, but also now they're experienced. Now that they have that playoff know-how. So I could see them making a run. As for the Cubs, we'll see. They got a lot of young people in new places, and I could see. I mean, the NL Central. It's crazy. It's unpredictable. Nobody knows what's going to happen. They could steal it, but until I'll see it when I believe it. I still think there's a lot of work to do for the Cubs.
Cincinnati's probably a good team to worry about in the Central. Cardinals, I don't even know what to make of them anymore. Milwaukee's going to definitely be a challenge.
Oh, yes.
And Pittsburgh, same boat as St. Louis. I don't know what to make of them. I just don't know. I mean, I got Paul Skeens and all, but I've never seen the Pirates as a contender for the Central these days in the NL. And as for the NL West, you got the Dodgers are always the Dodgers. They're going to be good. Team to watch out for. Definite shoe-in. AL East is always a fun battle. Orioles could be good. NL East is also fun with the Mets and the Braves and the Phillies especially. Yeah, the fun thing about baseball is you never know what to expect at any given night, obviously.
Yep. That's like I said, that's why they play the game. And like you said, we're all experts 1st October.
162 games in the year. A lot can happen.
And every once in a while, you get one of them screw years where they got to play game 163 because 2 teams are tied.
They got rid of that,
play for
sadly.
that finest spot.
Unfortunately, Gary, I hate to beg you, but those are a thing of the past.
Yep.
Which is can be both a blessing and a curse depending on how you look at it.
Yep, it can. Yep.
Should be an interesting baseball season coming up. Still a few more spring training games to knock down, I guess, or to bat away. But other than that, lots of Tigers, as you guys have mentioned, a lot of promise, a lot of intrigue surrounding them. Be interesting to see what they do this upcoming season.
Yep.
And like you guys said, MLB, it's unpredictable. Like, you could make your predictions, but then there's always that one team that sometimes just comes out of nowhere and makes that one team we don't expect.
Right. It seems like every year there's a sleeper. Yeah. And one of the 6 divisions, it seems like there's a sleeper that comes out and says, "Boy, I never saw that, never even imagined that," and there they are. Yep.
Yep. And we know what that was like.
That's right. The Tigers were that sleeper last year.
Yes.
Oh, they didn't sleep. They
them get hot.
Yep.
Got on at the right time.
If they were sleeping, they woke up at the right time.
That they did. Timing is everything.
Yep, to get there. Yep, it was great. A lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that continues this year. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yep.
Can't wait to play ball.
Absolutely. For both Cubs fans like myself and you Tigers fans out there, you got a lot to look forward to. Whether it's a playoff run or just, good vibes. Just the thing I like about baseball.
Yep.
Either way, people are smiling. And I feel like baseball is the sport that just it brings out the smiles out of people for one reason or another. Hey, it was our great maybe it's its place in history and that great pastime, but baseball, while I'm not the biggest baseball fan, I respect its place in history, and you know what? It does make me smile quite a bit too.
Now, let's hope the next lockout CBA negotiations go well by 27.
Yes. That's always,
A big derailment like we saw in 22.
Oh
you know,
boy.
there's sometimes that stuff that's the stuff you try not to think of, and so you don't, and then it happens, and then oh my goodness.
And then you're going to get the grayed out rosters like we saw in 22.
Yep.
All I gotta say there is fingers crossed
Yes.
that does not happen.
Both hands.
Absolutely. We got lucky that no game got canceled last time.
Yep.
Yeah, lockouts are no fun.
No, they aren't.
Oh, boy, no.
All right, I'll get you guys on. I'll shift to a more positive subject, and I'll let Tyler take this one away for us.
If you were to tell me that the Detroit Pistons would be contending for the playoff, even if it's a play-in spot, after such a bad run last year, I would have been shocked, stunned, and I would have asked what you were up to. And other terminologies and stuff. But here we are. The Pistons have been on quite the roll this season. And with this Cade Cunningham late winning shot against the Miami Heat on Wednesday night, more proof as to their surprising turnaround. In fact, can we see that clip, please? Thank you. Let's see what we got here.
Game, 5 seconds.
Right, yep, we got 5 seconds. And boom. Gonna go in, okay. Close. Okay, here we go.
Nice inbounds.
Nice.
Oh!
Trifecta, look at that.
Look at that.
Yep, not quite enough
0.6.
time, but yep, that's basically
Cade
game.
Cunningham from downtown.
Yep, one of the top picks of years back, and that's game over. Pistons steal one in Miami.
On the road and won. That's great.
Yeah, first time on ESPN in a while at that.
That took them to 39 and 31, it said, right?
That is just wow.
Now, could we be now?
I mean, the route that he took to get over to get the ball,
Nice movement on the court to set up that shot. Oh my.
Yes,
I can't believe there's any time left with only 5 seconds. It seemed like I thought he was going to run out of time before he could shoot.
but hey, there was just a little bit of time left to say to prove that there's that chance.
Yeah, half a second, you pass it in and touch the ball, the clock's expired. So, yeah, you'd have to get it and hit it all up at one time, and I don't think that could happen. So,
This is why they definitely practice for it. You've been playing the opportunity practice to shoot the twos, the threes, the dunks. You always have to practice that, and these guys are doing pretty good. Jaden Ivey as well. Cade coming out as we just saw, have been doing well. And really, after that long losing streak we had last year, I talked about, to see this team being good, just wow.
it's exciting.
Suddenly, Pistons games in downtown Detroit are fun to go to.
Are they drawing big crowds again?
I think they're drawing moderate, decent crowd, I
Good.
assume.
Good.
I mean, Detroit, the Wings were doing good for a bit, and then they had collapsed and had a March collapse to forget. I don't like the chances of making the playoffs of that. We'll see. But the Pistons, hey, even if it's just the play-in tournament, it's still impressive. That run is still something to be looked at proudly in Detroit.
Yes. It's a heck of a turnaround from 1 year.
I mean, it's not like 20 years ago where we had that run of Eastern Conference final appearances and 2 NBA final appearances and 1 title back in 2004, but it's still something good.
Yep.
And even then, the Palace was rocking those days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I miss that stadium too. Not that LJ's bad or anything, mind you. It was just nice for some of us to have a stadium in the suburbs. But I get why they went downtown again. I get it.
Yep.
I just want to start by adding this. The thing that impresses me the most about this run that the Pistons are on right now, they lost Jaden Ivey for the season. He he had a really nasty injury that took him out for this season. And when I heard about that, being a Purdue guy, and Jaden Ivey played for Purdue, that broke my heart a little bit. You never like to see a player have to leave the season due to injury or have to step aside.
No, yeah, right.
And despite losing one of their best players to injury, the Pistons, they're on a tear. They are playing some of the best basketball I have seen in a while. As Tyler mentioned, Cade Cunningham right now, he's unconscious right now. He shoots the ball, and it just goes in.
Somehow.
He calls a shot, creates his own shot, as that clip showed, and my goodness. So, and considering what happened last year too, this Pistons team, there's a different mindset around this Pistons team, and there's a different vibe. And one of the things we can say that we've learned about this team is they faced a ton of adversity, and not only they're facing that adversity, they're rallying around that. Wouldn't you say?
Yep,
Absolutely.
They're piggybacking off of it for sure. And you looked at that three-pointer he made at the end of the game. It was a long ways out, and he's tired. And you hope that he can get it there. And it's actually a little long and hit the backboard and went in. So I mean, he still had all of his strength, and he should have been worn out by then. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just thinking, geez, old Pete, this is great. Keep on going.
No, bitch. He had just enough to get it over, and hey, more wins and more likely appearances in the playoffs. I mean, could just be a one and done plans, but we'll see.
Yep.
Hey, they're showing all heart right now. That's the Pistons, all heart. And
They got like 10 or 11 games left, probably for the regular season.
yeah,
Okay.
try to finish strong.
Absolutely.
Keep playing your best. Build on this winning streak that you've got going right now. Build into the future, going into the next season. Because the Pistons, with the way they look ending this season, they could be a team that everyone looks at and says they could, if they don't make the playoffs this year, they could return next year because there's talent on this team. Watching the Pistons last year was baffling to me because I'm like, how are they on this losing streak? They got guys like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey on that team. Those are two talented players, and they were struggling. Of course, not because of those two.
No.
It was baffling to me. This year, of course, they've been much improved, and even before the winning streak, I noticed they were improved. But even without Jaden Ivey, the fact that they're really close, they're like kind of in the mix for a playoff spot, even with the loss of Jaden Ivey, is outstanding. That's all heart.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Eastern Conference could be quite interesting if the Pistons are going to have to contend with likes of Cleveland and Boston and Brooklyn and New York and the likes. But we'll see. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the NBA. Like now with the Pistons these days, it's just crazy.
Well, and the thing about basketball is, you can get a player can get hot and carry you for a game. You get hot, and then they get double coverage, and that guy that's no longer covering you, and he can make a few points, and stuff like that. That's it. But but a player can't carry you for a whole season. That's the whole thing. They can be a highlight, but still at the same time, it's a team effort, and they seem to be playing as a team a lot better now, right across the board. They said he's out for the season, but they filled that gap and they're still winning. So they're doing their job. Might take a couple of guys to do that or alternating people to do it, but it's working, and that's what makes it happen. So.
Yep, but definitely a next man up type of mentality there.
Yep, for sure.
That
It is
definitely
exciting.
seems like that's what the Pistons have taken up, or at the very least, they've kind of rallied around Jaden Ivey, and they're like, okay, let's play for Jaden. Let's go out there, give it our best for Jaden. Get our best. Let's just play our game. Do the little things right. That's another case of what the Pistons are doing right here. Doing all the little things right. On that play, they were doing all the little things right. They were getting Cade Cunningham as open as he could. Goes out there and he just swoosh makes a play. Absolutely. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought that was a March Madness game because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Yeah, a lot of excitement.
Yep.
There,
The guy makes a March Madness style buzzer beater.
Yep, it is. So
Basically, yeah. It was like, wow. And he didn't have any chance to respond.
and on the road on top of that, so it makes that one more exciting. Yep.
Huge road win too.
There was nobody cheering for him. You know that he did it all on his own.
Yeah. Yep, fun times in Detroit.
Yep.
Fun times.
Not so fun times in that game if you were a Miami Heat fans. I think he took the air right out of that building with that shot.
They deflated right there. The basketball didn't. They did. So
Yeah, if you heard the audio that night at ESPN, that place definitely went quiet.
Yep.
And when you're on the road, you kind of want that to happen.
Yep. You know you've done your job when that happens.
Yeah, and honestly, really happy for Cade Cunningham because watching him play ball at Oklahoma State, I knew he could be a superstar in the NBA. And right now, he's at the point in his career, like he's in I think this is his third season, right? Or fourth season? I could be wrong.
I don't follow pro basketball that much. So
Yeah,
I'm
likewise.
hockey. I'm addicted to hockey still, but I'm just.
You and me both, actually.
Yeah,
he's got-
thinking about Pistons much, but I'm not going to deny how great the run has been. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the big reasons why, as Tyler's clip has shown, one of the big reasons the Pistons are on this magical run that they are on is because Cade Cunningham, he is balling out. He is swish.
Yes.
He's taking chances, and it's working well for the Pistons. And in addition to that, the Pistons, they're playing as a team and doing all the little things correctly.
Yes.
That
Right.
they are.
They're on a roll for sure. Yep.
Yep. That is what you want to see.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of basketball, we're staying on the topic of basketball, but we're now going to shift gears to the madness.
Not March Madness.
Yeah, that's right. We're going into March Madness.
It is upon us.
Yeah, it has been, so far, been a really interesting start to this year's tournament. Now, we're going to start with this. Okay, you thought the shot that Cade Cunningham made here was something. Well, all right, you thought that shot was crazy. Sports fans, March Madness started, in 2025, March Madness started in the most poetic way possible. Take a gander at this. Roll clip, please. Alabama State, St. Francis. It's an absolute miracle. Alabama State with a game winner to start March Madness. And this was in the first four. The absolutely miraculous play. The thing I keep asking myself watching this is, how did he get that ball? Because look, that goes right into a sea of red, and somehow one of the guys for Alabama State comes up with that ball and makes a play.
Absolutely. That is incredible.
Everything happens for a reason. You try and figure it out, you might as well go bang your head on the wall because that still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know. Like it's
Look
like
at that right here. He does again.
this is the basketball.
That right falls right. He's like standing there in his hands, and then he goes up. The guy was right there and couldn't defend him either. So.
I'm still trying to figure out how number one for Alabama State came up with that ball.
That guy right there was in the game and couldn't figure out how it happened.
Yeah, everyone's just like this. You know what? If this is not peak March Madness, sports fans, I don't know what is then, because this is just extraordinary. And you know what? Sometimes, like Gary over here said, everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
That play happened. And a lot of it, because I'm pretty sure because they practice something like that in a game. Because sometimes you might ask, why do they practice these little? It's because you never know when you're going to end up in a situation where you are going to have to heave that ball all the way.
You look at the distance he threw. It was a perfect throw. Literally, it went right into the guy's hands. Went through everybody else's hands. So it was a perfect throw. But like I said, you try and make sense of that, and you just say you'll go crazy.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Like you said, Gary, absolute perfect pass in that situation. He gave his guy a chance to go and do something, and that number one gets his hands on the ball, and from there, the rest is history. And we got peak March Madness.
That we know.
And because of that, guess what? They get to play another game.
Yep.
Well, they did. They lost, and I think they lost to Auburn.
Yep, they did. They went on to play Auburn, lost, but much respect to Alabama State for giving us a March Madness moment to remember. And so far, that's been the biggest. That's the biggest thing that's happened this March Madness. The play we're going to remember the most so far.
Yes.
Everything else, it's been kind of calm for the rest of the way. So,
all them games that are going to be, I'll tell you what, there's going to be some wild stuff that happens for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is an exciting time of year. Like I said, I don't watch pro basketball, but college basketball, the NC2A tournament, like I said, I typically doze off. Like you did the Michigan game last night. I fell asleep
Oh man.
in the middle of the game there, and I woke up and it was over with, and I had to ask somebody, did Michigan win? Yeah, they did.
Barely.
Still a win, but
Yeah.
it just, like I said, you can't stay up for all of them, but I watch all the games I can watch. That's so much fun.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Absolutely.
More so on the Thursday and Friday first round action.
Yeah.
The Saturday and Sunday games are nice on their own way, but given the early stuff that you see on only CBS airing games at times, it's just with the fact that you don't get many other games at the noon slot or the 2 p.m. slot on Saturday or Sunday, your choices are pretty limited there, and it really showed big time. Because if that game is a blowout, you're kind of screwed. And more so when you get into the Elite Eight and beyond that. Week 16, yeah, there could be some good might be a good competitive game in one of the regional semis, but you're still screwed when you get to the single digit amount of games, and they're not close. But right now, it's still too early to think about that. Michigan barely wins. Kansas, I'm surprised they had quite the early exit. And we haven't had a 16-1 upset like it was with Purdue a few years back, or UMBC over Virginia in 2018.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes you try to. Sometimes the bracketing there, you look at, you wonder how did that team get, ranked higher than this team? You know what I'm saying? But it's
Right.
there's a method to the madness again that they figured out with. But again, sometimes, but like you said, to have a 16 beat a 1, I don't care. There's no way anybody made a mistake ranking that 16 team and that 1 team. It's like you said, that's why you play the game and things happen every once in a while.
We
They
keep
just
talking
do.
about it.
It's just.
Why they call it March Madness.
Yep.
Anything goes. It's absolute madness.
Yeah, you
Perfect.
stop and think of some of the most obnoxious things and unbelievable things you've seen in college basketball. It's in the NC2A tournament. It is. It's just thinking, how many times I looked at my chart and said, well, I still would have picked it the same way, even though they didn't win. I still would have picked it that way. But you just don't know. That's why they play the game.
Absolutely.
Yep. Uh-huh.
But it is fun time right now. March Madness is here. Opening day for baseball is right around the corner. It's just, the Pistons are thriving, and it's exciting topics.
Absolutely.
These are exciting times we are in.
Yes.
And obviously, March Madness. I like to think of March Madness as the best time of year, just in my opinion, because it's probably out of all the postseasons, maybe besides the NHL playoffs, that I enjoy the most, because there's always some little bit of excitement and always some kind of drama. Michigan, of course, as you guys mentioned, they faced the drama. But thanks to those two bigs of Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, they were able to survive against UC San Diego and advance to the round. Yep, like you said, they lucked out on that one, but they had to fight for it. But they're moving on, and they're going to take on, I believe, Texas A&M. That'll be a tough matchup.
That's going to be fun tomorrow.
That will be,
Brutal matchup, because Texas A&M, they can fluster anyone on defense. Just ask my Purdue Boilermakers.
Oh yeah. And again, the bracketing, the week coming up to it, and then like the first 2 rounds, and then the next week, it's 2 weeks of nothing but nonstop action. And then you get down eventually to the Final 4, and then you get down to the Final 2, and then a 2-day gap, and here we are. Monday, let's go for the national championship, and it's just, and I don't care whether your team's in there or not. One of the 2 teams you're still cheering to win for, whether it's your team or not. You still pick a team to win. You just do. That's all there is to it.
Yep, that's what March Madness does to all of us. We fill out these brackets.
Yep.
We do the best we can, and we either get a lot of them right or
rip it up.
like I do. Thankfully, I'm not ready to rip mine just yet because my national champion is not out just yet. But if it ends up happening before this next podcast that we do, I'll rip it up for you guys right in front of the camera.
Right on set. Yep.
Yeah,
Give you guys some entertainment.
I officially destroyed my document.
I don't have a back to rip because I filled mine out electronically on a smartphone. I'll have you know.
Ain't that right? On a side note, in terms of March Madness, okay, so a couple of matchups I was keeping an eye on. All right, Purdue and High Point. A lot of people were high on High Point to upset Purdue. That didn't happen, so Purdue's moving on to the round of 32 after. And here's the thing: High Point actually could have won that game against Purdue. I mean, Purdue, as well as they did defensively and rebounding the basketball, and they had some guys on the bench step up. They had no answers for High Point's three-point shooting. High Point was hitting all the threes out there that they could hit. I was like, oh, we're in trouble if we can't stop these three-pointers, or if they go on a run, we're in big trouble. And for one reason or another, High Point, they went away from the three-point shooting. They stopped shooting threes and tried to go inside, and Purdue defensively capitalized and was able to pull away in the end in large part because High Point got away from their bread and butter, which was the three-point shooting. Because those guys, they were lengthy, they were athletic, they attacked Purdue with their speed. So going into Purdue's next matchup, which is against the Cowboys of McNeese State, who is another team that looks really dangerous. They're lengthy and athletic. Purdue is going to have their hands full. Absolutely. They are going because if High Point was fast and athletic, McNeese is twice as fast, twice as athletic. They could shoot threes. And all that what I saw in the game against Purdue, all those three-pointers made against Purdue, oh boy, if Purdue's got to tread well going into that game because McNeese with that and Purdue is weak against athletic teams, especially this season. And McNeese is like High Point is very athletic. And they could tear Purdue apart. If Purdue wants to go advance to Indy and play in the Sweet 16, you know what? The things that they did against High Point, good defense, good rebounding, got to have more of that.
Absolutely.
Yep, most definitely, yeah. And again, like I said, Purdue, the Purdue game, I saw part of that, and it just was, they came on at the end and won that. But again, they could have very easily lost that game. So is there?
Couldn't agree
I
more.
was asking, is there 8 Big Ten teams?
You are correct.
8. Okay, that's what I thought I counted.
Yep.
And Michigan State, of course, they're playing later tonight against, I believe, Bryant at 10 p.m.
Yep, Moo U. Yep.
So that's another big game that I'm sure you guys will be following.
You know why they refer to Michigan State as Moo U, don't you?
They call them Moo?
Yeah, it used to be called Moo U.
I have no idea.
It was an agricultural college.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember they were called that, but I didn't know that was like an abbreviation for it.
Yeah, Moo U. That's what.
Moo U.
Because it was an agricultural college.
I get it. Moo.
My dad's, my grandma Wall's brother went to Michigan State. He was a farmer.
I'm going to have to ask my stepdad went there in the late 70s. I'm going to have to ask if he remembers that nickname.
In 1962, when my dad took the state plumbing exam for his journeyman's license to be a plumber, it was at Michigan State University in the Cow Palace. No, that was the auditorium. That was the athletic auditorium. It was called the Cow Palace because that was not a Steiner because Michigan was a farm state and Michigan State was a farmer's college. Yes.
Bring that cowbell.
Yep. The Cow Palace. Yep.
Yeah,
The good old days.
Purdue's got a pretty big agriculture program too.
Do they?
Yep. They do a lot of that in addition to engineering.
I'm glad that they still do that because, crop growing is never going away. That's an ongoing thing. So,
Gotta have that.
Yep.
Texas A&M Texas definitely got that agricultural heritage in them still.
Yes.
For
Absolutely.
that very reason.
Yep.
And a couple other matchups I was keeping an eye on too was I mentioned McNeese who played Clemson. Oh my God, that game was ugly at first. I don't know if you, go ahead and look at that if you'd like. So Clemson and McNeese. In terms of that, Clemson had just 13 points in the first half. That's awful. Okay, like that's a historic low. I thought they were pulling a Virginia from last year, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh boy.
Because Virginia only had 42 points. Thankfully, Clemson kind of rallied in the end, but by that point, it was too late. And McNeese ended up taking them out of the tournament as a 5-12 upset, or 12-5 upset, however you like to call it. So McNeese, and they're dangerous. Even despite almost blowing that game against Clemson, McNeese, they intimidated Clemson. They spooked them.
Yeah.
So, and Purdue's got to be very careful here. Don't get spooked, all right? Just do what you do. Play your style basketball if you're Purdue. Rebound the ball. Play defense, please, like you did against High Point. And we'll have a chance to get to Indy for the Sweet 16.
Yep.
Something else I want to mention in terms of McNeese. I think we found, sports fans, we found our star for this year's NCAA tournament. And here's the thing, guys. It's not a basketball player.
Ooh.
It's an equipment manager.
Really?
Yeah, there's a guy who's making headlines for McNeese, and he's their equipment manager. His name is Amir Khan, spelled A-M-I-R, and then Khan is in K-H-A-N. This kid, as far as I know, I think he is the first equipment manager ever in the history of the NCAA to have an NIL deal. That's not a joke.
Really?
He has
Wow.
an NIL deal.
As an equipment manager.
And that made me think of this. Was there something you wanted to say, sir?
No, it's amazing, yes.
I'm going to add this. I was an equipment manager for my high school's hockey team. When I heard that an equipment manager for McNeese by the name of Amir Khan had an NIL deal, I thought to myself, I went to college way too early. I should have gone to college and tried to have been a sports equipment manager and tried to come back as a graduate student. Maybe I could have made an NIL deal, for lack of better words. And my friend Tyler over here, he was an equipment manager for the track team at Lakeland High School.
Yep. So yep.
So imagine that, Tyler. Maybe you could go back to college and be an equipment manager and get
went
yourself
to,
an NIL deal.
I went to a trade school.
Hey, nothing wrong with that either.
No, trades are never going away. Never.
Always too important.
Never going away. So unless people want to start living outside in tents again.
So, yeah. So that's the guy that's making the biggest headlines in the March Madness. It's not a basketball player. It's an equipment manager. Like, he's all over the news. But you know what? Props to him. Salute to him. It's great to see that we have a star behind the scenes. It's another one of those things that makes March Madness so much fun to watch. Sometimes it's not just the players you come to watch, but you come to see other things like, you know, an equipment manager who's making a lot of noise on the bench, or maybe somebody who goes and takes a stick and gets the ball off that's stuck on the rim. Like, sometimes they'll just plant, and then you have to get. There was an Indiana cheerleader a few years ago who went up and got a ball off of it.
Yep.
So it's moments
I
like
remember that. I remember seeing that at a sports center, yes.
making that sports. So other than that, so those are some of the big headlines. And obviously the most exciting thing in March Madness so far, gentlemen, was what happened, of course, in the first four between Alabama State and St. Francis. That miraculous finish and that final shot.
That was.
That triggered a lot, from what I heard also, that triggered a lot of PTSD for Bears fans, including myself, because that made us think of that Hail Mary against the which the Commanders won.
Yes.
It had a similar feel to it. I felt really bad for St. Francis, too, because it's tough when you lose in the tournament, because it means, for the seniors, it means your career's over.
Yeah, that's the last game of their college career. Yep, it is. But,
Yep.
but it happens, like you said. And I can remember as a kid, my dad told me, you got to play to win and lose.
Absolutely.
And there's always going to be a winner and there's always going to be a loser. And then he intensified things, saying that if you don't like losing, then win.
Amen.
That's
True
right.
to that.
Okay, but that's not how it always works out.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You know, another one of those reasons we like watching the NCAA tournament is because we know those college kids, they're going to give it everything they've got. This is the biggest stage. This has been their dream for a long time, since they were yee-high. They want to go out there, give it their all, and win or lose. We know they're going to do that. And that's why this tournament is just so amazing to watch. And that's why that's why we see a lot of upsets too.
Yes.
Like these 512s. Because these smaller schools, they know, hey, we're on the big stage, but we're not just happy to be there.
No.
We want to show off our hard work, and we want to show that we can compete with the big dogs.
Yeah, we're here to win, and like you said, and that's one thing.
all business for them,
and look
too.
at all college sports. And then college football. There's some crazy games and stuff there. College baseball, college hockey. I don't watch that, but college basketball. The intensity and the motivation that the players play with is second to none. It just it's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
The level they play at, especially in the NCAA tournament. That's when I watch college basketball.
Me too.
Yep.
And that's why I prefer college basketball to the NBA, because there's a lot more passion in college basketball.
Yes, there is.
Not to
Oh,
mention a
yes.
whole lot more defense,
Yes.
too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like that stuff.
Yep.
All good, fine points there.
And one other thing I just wanted to mention. So you guys said you were kind of surprised that Kansas went down to Arkansas or went out early. I personally was actually not too surprised about that. And not just because I picked Arkansas to advance over Kansas, but watching Kansas basketball this season, they were a frustrating team to watch. It just felt like there was no chemistry, no like real teamwork. And don't get me wrong, Bill Self, he is one of the best coaches in college basketball, hands down. But I think this roster was one of the, sadly, in terms of chemistry, was one of the worst roster constructions of his career as a coach at Kansas. It just felt like there was no unity or cohesion with this Kansas roster. And it's kind of also another example of why, like, rosters built around NIL, they might give you a lot of wins in the regular season, but come tournament time, you're going to you might end up being out early because, that chemistry and that experience matters. And when you're changing up, for a lot of schools, when you're changing up rosters a lot throughout each and every year, it's hard to build that chemistry and cohesion.
Okay. Yep.
So that's just kind of my thoughts there on the Arkansas. And Arkansas, props to them. They've been hurt throughout the season, and John Calipari has done a great job rallying this injured to hell basketball team, not only to the NCAA tournament, but to the round of 32.
Yeah.
Some absolute great coaching there.
Still got that chap after Oakland ended his time in Kentucky last year.
Yeah, he's bounced back from that, actually.
Yeah.
I give him props there.
Yep, and of course, there's always the fact that my buddy's school is not in California.
I don't know if you've heard this story before, Gary, but when Oakland upset Kentucky last year, everyone was like, "Who?" And they thought when they said
Oakland,
Oakland,
California.
Yeah, they thought it was
Exactly.
referring to
I
Oakland.
remember that. No, that's Oakland County, Michigan. Oakland County, Michigan. Yes. No, that was, like I said, that was so exciting.
We Michiganders were like, it's
So
our
exciting.
little secret.
Yes.
I was so spoiled in March Madness this last year because for that reason too, I'm an Oakland University alum too. So that was really
okay.
cool to see.
Yeah.
That and then watching Purdue go to the Final Four, I felt so spoiled this
Yeah.
year.
Oakland University isn't a big college, but I tell you what, it's a high-level education facility. Oakland
yeah.
University is.
It is not easy to
No,
finish your degree there.
No, it's
I know.
very, very high level. It's a wonderful place, and it's kind of that was great exposure they got in the tournament last year. Great exposure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Greg Campy got something special as their coach for so many years.
Yep.
One other side story
Legend.
that came out of Oakland upsetting Kentucky was apparently a lot of people from Kentucky who wanted John Calipari fired. They ordered like a whole ton of Oakland University merchandise from the bookstore.
Did they really?
Yeah, Greg Campy was even saying like the whole the Oakland University bookstore website, it crashed because of how many orders that came out of Kentucky, the state of Kentucky.
Unfortunately, that's backstabbing, but there was a method to the madness there.
Only in March Madness will you ever see that stuff. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Oakland, you could put the sign up saying "sold out."
Yeah, our whole website, so we're going to have to restock our inventory. Some folks in Kentucky took all of it.
Good.
That was a good problem to have, though, for that school in Rochester.
Yep, for sure.
Hey, made them a lot of money. Not that they complain too much.
Tell you what, so other games going on. Of course, Duke. Last I checked, Duke was up on American University, or actually not American, but Mount St. Mary's. Sorry, I got the wrong school there.
Yep.
So they were up when I last looked. So not all this is in my bracket is complete. The green indicates matchups I've gotten right, and red is just like, well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of working on that. Of course, we still got Kentucky to play. We'll see how they do with their new coach. And Drake, that's a team that everybody is looking at and saying they could make a run.
Yeah.
They just got past Missouri, and maybe they'll have something for Texas Tech tomorrow night.
We'll see.
Absolutely. Michigan State is playing at 10 o'clock. They're getting ready to get warmed up. That's a team I have in terms of my bracket. I have them in the national championship, and a big reason, in case you guys are wondering, is that defense for Michigan State is elite. Like, it's one of the better defenses I've seen in college basketball this season, and their offense is consistent enough, I think, where they can make a deep run.
So when I was watching the bracket there on ESPN, that's one thing they talked about was how good Michigan State's defense was. And that, like you said, not knowing how, I said, I don't watch college basketball during the season, but watching the bracket and the breakdown and going over the teams and stuff, it just, you get a lot of information on it. But they praised Michigan State's defense and said that should take them deep into the tournament. So,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. I think they can make a deep run. They've got. And you know what? We keep pondering this one question. If Michigan State makes that deep run, they get to the Final Four or even the national championship, does Tom Izzo retire? Does he do it?
I don't know if he's got it in him. I don't. He still loves doing it. He just does.
It is hard to say.
Yep.
Hard to say goodbye.
Hard
to say goodbye.
Absolutely, indeed. And to close out the subject again, just to remind you all, MSU and Bryant, they're going to face off tonight at 10 o'clock. Michigan, for all you Michigan fans out there, they are going to play Texas A&M. That'll be a brawler of a matchup, or physical defenses. I think Michigan's could get past Texas A&M because they got those two big guys in Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. That could help them out a lot, especially if it becomes a foul fest.
Yes.
And then Purdue, looking to advance to Indianapolis for the Sweet 16, but they got to get through a red-hot McNeese team first. Got to exercise some more demons. We're playing another double-digit seed, and everybody likes to give us all sorts of hell for it. But Purdue's going to have to earn it. Got to play hard. And everything, like I said, everything that Purdue did in that game, they improved a lot on defense in that game against High Point, and they also rebounded the ball, the little things. And take care of the ball. You do those things, you can weather the McNeese three-point storm.
Yep.
Now, athleticism is going to be another thing, so don't be afraid to play fast if you're Purdue. So these are my final thoughts on March Madness.
Okay, good.
Yep.
A lot of valuable information. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anything else you gentlemen wanted to say?
Nope. I'm glad you asked me to be on the show. This is fun stuff. I love sports.
It's an honor having you on.
Yeah,
It's
likewise.
college, professional, amateur, it doesn't matter. It's fun stuff.
Absolutely.
Thanks again.
Hey, anytime. It was an honor having you on the show, and I hope you've had as much fun today as me and Tyler had.
I feel as young as you guys right now. I do. So that's
Thank you, man. That's okay. I'm getting old fast, too.
Still in our 30s, but hey, it's
Yep.
All right.
been fun having you here.
Yeah, it's
Good.
been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks again. And again, I'll see you after one of these times when you're coming in. I'm going out from a radio show. I'll run into you guys again, and we'll converse on how the baseball season's going.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And hey,
Good.
anytime you want to come on the show, let us know. We'd love to have you on again.
Yeah.
Well, the plan to have me a show this fall when the Tigers are in the playoffs.
Oh, it sounds like
Let's
a
do
plan.
that, okay?
We'll write you down for that when
Let's make
Tigers
sure, yep.
postseason.
Yep. We'll think about that when we get close to October.
Absolutely. You've got plenty of time to think that through.
Yep.
All right, sports fans, that's all we got for this week's Friday Roundtable. Again, huge and special thanks to Gary Wall for coming on the show and talking sports with us.
Thanks for having me.
Huge
Likewise.
honor having him on board. And sports fans, anything you'd like to say in the comments below, leave below. Any questions you have for us, we'd love to answer that and interact with you, sports fans.
Absolutely.
And all right, with that said, we're going to sign off for this Friday. Hope you guys are enjoying March Madness and all other sports. This is Jake Waxman
And Tyler Lavalette.
signing off from the studio. Have a good weekend, everyone.